everyone, welcome back to the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. I'm GoLocal News editor Kate Nagel. I'm joined here by Matt Brown, former Rhode Island Secretary of State, announcing today he is looking at possibly running for Rhode Island governor as an independent, forming an exploratory committee. We just were chatting about some of his big issues that he's looking at: renewable energy, potential for a Rhode Island bank, and where he stands on the Paw Sox.
Yes, so I was saying, I know that I'd love to have the Paw Sox here. First of all, I love them, love the Red Sox. I coach Little League, so we go often. I know the House and the legislature are looking at ways to possibly improve the deal. I think one way they could improve the deal is to say, look, if you want the state to be a financial partner, to be an investor, then the state should get some ownership of the team and the profits. I think that's one way to improve the deal.
That's one of the complaints that a lot of the opponents have. Again, we're waiting to see what comes out of the House pertaining to the Paw Sox. So we talked about renewables. We talked about a Rhode Island bank. What else would you like voters to know as you're going out, talking with folks, asking them what they're concerned with, that will tip the scales to decide whether or not there's going to be a run?
Well, I think it's, I want to take these ideas out to people. They're bold ideas, they're new ideas, so we need to have a conversation. I think we need to, we're going to want to get out from behind our screens and our gadgets a little bit and talk in person. And I want to hear what people think about them. I also want to hear what ideas people have. I'm not the only person, obviously, who has ideas about what we need to do in the state. So I want to hear everyone's ideas. So this is going to be a campaign of, in the coming weeks, getting out to every part of the state, having a real conversation. It's not going to be me doing talking points and trying to persuade people to vote for me. It's going to be a real back and forth and a conversation, and then we'll go from there.
Well, I wanted to have you in today with the big announcement, talking about some of the big ticket items. We'll have links to Matt's campaign. Do you have the URL handy?
Yes. Oh, good question. What's the URL? MattBrownForGovernor.com. MattBrownForGovernor.com.
Again, the exploratory committee announced today, wanted to get Matt here into the studio to talk a little bit to you, the viewer. I'm sure we'll probably have you back in the coming weeks.
Look forward to it.
Okay, Matt, thanks for coming in. I'll let you go around the corner. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Matt Brown, former Rhode Island Secretary of State, announcing that he is potentially looking at running for governor here as an independent. He has a letter to Rhode Islanders on Matt Brown for Governor. Check out that URL, talking about his ideas pertaining to renewable energy, also a Rhode Island bank, and we just chatted about his thoughts on the Paw Sox. I'm sure we'll have plenty to talk about with Matt in the coming weeks as he explores potentially a run for governor. I would now like to welcome, going from politics to sports, a big sports story here, the Providence College men's ice hockey team. Coach Nate Lehman, thank you for coming into the studio today.
Thanks for having me, Kate.
I appreciate it as you get ready for the quarterfinals of Hockey East versus Maine on Friday. Before we talk about Friday's game, let's talk about the season recap. How's the season played out so far?
Well, it's played out good. I mean, we're a typical team that's just gotten better and better each week of the season. I've been really excited about it. We're a young team. It's one of the youngest teams that I've coached since I've been at Providence, and the guys, they keep getting better. They're a fun group to work with. They're a fun group to come to the rink every day, and I think they're excited. They're really excited to play at this time of the year. But they keep getting better. We had a really good second half, one of the best in the country, and now it's time for the second season.
So would you say, are you peaking at the right time?
I think we are. Yeah, I think we are. And our last game of the regular season, we lost, which as a coach, you don't want to lose, but sometimes it's a really good thing because it'll make our guys a little bit hungrier. So, yeah, I would say that we're playing pretty good hockey right now. I think the guys understand what makes them tick and what makes them successful.
So talk about the season a little bit, some of the big wins to where you're at. Number 3 seed in the Hockey East tournament on Friday.
Yep.
But what were the highlights of the season?
Well, I mean, I would say, we've done really well against the other top 3 teams in our league. So if you look at the top 4, we had the best record against those teams. So we beat them all, which was really good. I mean, we had a good trip to Ireland as a team. We spent a week in Ireland, played a tournament over there, lost in the championship game, but that was a great experience. And coming back for Christmas, we played a tournament in Pittsburgh. We won that tournament. That was a good high for us. But I'd say overall the team is had a lot of highs throughout the year, and that's what's been fun.
So I know I asked you in the green room before the path back to the national championship, but it starts one game at a time, the series at a time, looking at Maine. What's the prognosis for Maine? What are the key matchups to be looking for?
Well, the big thing for us is for us to come out and play on our toes, because we're a team, like I said, we're young, and I want the guys just to go out and play their game. I feel like we're talented. I feel like we have good team speed. I feel like when we play to our identity, we'll be the better team. But that being said, Maine, they use their defensemen very well. They scored a lot of goals with their defensemen. And their first line, their top 3 players are pretty good players, and they have a goaltender that's drafted by the Boston Bruins that's had a very good freshman year. So those would be the things I would say that we have to kind of watch in our matchup.
And who are the key players for the Friars?
I would say we're led by our captain, Brian Penno. He's a senior. He's a Washington Capitals draft pick. He's a super kid. He's done a great job of leading our team this year. And outside of that, we have Eric Foley, who's a junior, who's probably going to be one of the players that will be all Hockey East, will be all league. Jacob Bryson is a defenseman on our team, is a sophomore. He's 5'9", but he's one of the smartest hockey players I've ever coached. And he's a terrific player. He led our league in plus minus. He also led our league. He was second in our league by points by defenseman. So he had a terrific year. And I would say those 3 guys are the guys who are going to be kind of stir our pot.
And when you're getting ready for Hockey East and you're getting ready for the weekend, I mean, it's a long season. How are the players holding up? I mean, how do you, what's getting ready for the game when you're in March versus back when you're getting ready for your first games in December?
Well, they're a lot more they're a lot more tired of their coach when it comes to March. I can tell you that, because everything's new and fresh, and they hadn't seen their coach for 4 months over the summer. So we've given the guys a lot of time off.
Okay.
We got a bye week. I've given this team more time off than any other team that I ever have, but I think it's a good thing. They're really jumping, and I think they wish the series would have started on Wednesday instead of starting on Friday. But the big thing for them is keeping them fresh, and it's not only in their legs, it's mentally, because we do have the longest NCAA sport. We've been at it 6 months now, and it's really about them just going out and having a fresh mind and having a good mindset and going out and attacking the game.
And how big is hockey fever at PC? I mean, and how big was winning the 2015 National Championship?
That helped hockey fever, I can tell you that. Burnt down a couple houses around campus too, but that helped hockey fever. It's been tremendous. We play all of our games on campus, and the basketball team plays downtown. So that allows the students just to walk right from their dorms and catch a game. And we've had great attendance since we started winning, which is really about 5 years ago, and we've been packing the rink. And unfortunately, our students are on spring break, so that's why we need the community to come out and maybe give us that little boost, that little extra, come out there and support the team.
And so if you're watching right now, they need the rest of the community, not just the kids up at Providence College for Friday night, starting with Maine. And let's talk about recruiting. I mean, winning the national championship, you got that card. I mean, What are we looking at in the coming years?
Well, I love our recruiting class next year. It'll definitely be one of the top 3, one of the top 5 in the country. So we're very excited about that. We know the future's bright, and I think we'll be very deep. I think that this team, this year, it's really about the guys that we have. It's the fewest players I've ever carried on a roster before. So that's kind of been a little bit different. But next year we'll be deeper. I think we'll be a little faster. We'll be a little heavier. But I want to think about that stuff in the summer. I want to think about this team.
You're thinking Friday.
I'm thinking Friday. I'm thinking, I'm thinking these guys have, this current team they've really paid the price all year. And as a coach, when you get a bye week like this, you get to sit back and reflect a little bit on your team, and you're really proud of them. You're really happy about how far they've come, and you just want it for them so badly.
And we have folks from PC in all the time, from professors and students, and when you're going out and you're recruiting and you're telling them, come to PC, again, that national championship is so huge, but what do you tell them about DC? Like, how does PC work, in your opinion, with the student, preparing them for the post-hockey life?
Well, first of all, when they get on our campus right now, they've put like $45 million worth of work on our campus over the past 5 years.
It's a beautiful
and there's still more coming because they keep buying a little land around campus, and but they've redesigned the whole campus. So a lot of times when we get a student on campus right there, they're going, wow. And the new Art Ryan Business School has been a major booster for our recruiting also, because there are a number of hockey players that want to study business. I I think that's just more of the student coming in these days. They want to know what they're going to do after college right away. So that's been a big recruiting tool also. But the big thing for us, 11 to 18 students in a class. Your professors at a school where it's 4,000 students. Our guys couldn't get a better experience. They really couldn't. I mean, they support athletics at our school, but when they're outside of the rink, they're getting a great education. They're around people that care about them. And I had never worked at a Catholic school. This was my first time, and I can tell you, anything that happens, and we've had a lot of things happen over the 7 years I've been coach, from grandparents passing away, or, maybe things happen in a home, or, last year we had a player that had a heart condition and he can no longer play, and we had a player 2 years ago with cancer. I mean, it's the community aspect of PC, of people coming out of the woodwork, Dominican friars coming out of the woodwork just to help and just to want to be there. That's probably the most unique thing I've ever seen on campus, and I know you're a Crimson, a Harvard Crimson there. I worked at Harvard, I worked at Maine, and I worked at Union College, and I can just tell you, that's very special about PC.
So you've been around, and I just have to ask, I mean, do you have the wardrobe of all the black and white for the Friars getting ready? Yeah. You have to change a wardrobe every time you move.
Well, our athletic director gets on us if we don't wear our school colors. So we actually had to get nice shirts designed with our logo. But
that really is a school shirt.
That it really is a school shirt.
Oh, I thought you just, were out looking for black, looking for white, looking for black.
we brand it up, you know what I mean? We got to get it going. But this is a State and Liberty shirt, and the founders of this company are ex-Division I hockey players.
Wow.
And they make these shirts to kind of fit. And so when our team went over to Ireland, we were fortunate enough to have an alum of the program get a shirt for every one of the guys on the team. So this has been kind of a nice plus. It's very comfortable, and you look nice when you come on shows like yours.
I'm glad I asked, because I just thought, you look very Friar-esque, and there's always a story. The big story, though, is on Friday when the number 3 seeded Providence College men's hockey team faces number 6 Maine for the series, and Hockey East this weekend. Again, kids are off campus somewhat for spring break, so wants the community to come out and support in the run for another national championship. Coach Nate Lehman, I appreciate your taking the time to come in today. I'll let you back to campus, back to the players. We'll have more coverage on PC men's ice hockey with Hockey East this weekend. I'll let you go around the corner.
Thanks, Kate.
Okay, thanks. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back with our next guest here in the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. I'm GoLocal News Editor Kate Nagel. We've had a full show so far, and it's not over yet. I'd like to welcome my next guest. GoLocal columnist Bob Wickham is around the corner.
Kate.
Thanks for coming in today.
Nice to see you. Watching the flooding rains.
Watching the rains, but we just had an interview with the Weather Channel's Alex Wallace, and says with the temps dropping, the snow could be starting actually soon, and we could be actually getting some significant snowfall.
I was hoping for 2 or 3 inches thick of freezing rain.
I know. I think everyone was really praying for rain.
When the sun hits it the next day, it's just glorious.
We'll see what happens.
There's a famous poem by Robert Frost called Birches, about boys swinging on birches with the ice falling off and all that stuff. So, I mean, the possibility, and also the arcing of the, the electric lines as they're broken. It's very, very beautiful. It casts this sort of orange glow and everything. And
well, I don't think people would like to see arcing power lines, especially after the last
beautiful.
storm that we had.
Just wild. I was down in, I drove down Little Compton the other day, and all the trees down. It was like after a hurricane. and yet, you know, the trees were not in full leaf, so it's amazing.
So, I mean, I know people were out for days. I mean,
Yeah,
there were really
yeah,
high winds,
yeah.
but I mean, should we really be concerned about our infrastructure?
We certainly should. There probably in certain places, more of these wires should be underground. There's no doubt about that. It's in certain places. It'll have to be a very long, gradual process. It's very expensive to bury power lines, but in most of Europe and most of Japan, they're buried.
They are
And
indeed.
much of China, they're buried. So we have a real problem as it seems to be becoming stormier. We've had 3 storms in New England, southern New England, since the kind of that tropical thing back in October. We've had hurricane force gust. So that's
It was windy
Yeah.
last storm. We're keeping an eye on
Yeah,
this one,
yeah.
and obviously we
Yeah.
just chatted about infrastructure. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
yeah.
segue in here to one
Sure.
of my previous guests, Matt Brown, the former Rhode Island Secretary of State,
I've
said
met him.
today.
Yeah, I've
Met him a
yeah,
few times.
Yeah,
So, looking to run as an independent, and he was talking about his platform, and one of his issue areas is renewable energy. Do you
Right.
think this will resonate with voters' energy?
Well, no, I think
independence?
it's very difficult to press renewable energy per se. I think you need something like surging oil prices or gas prices to really get people
pocketbook.
engaged in that. The other thing is you've got to get across the fact that energy from, say, the sun, solar energy, hydro, and so on, the price is falling. The batteries are getting better, so you know you have power overnight. You know, storage batteries are getting better. There's been major technological improvements in this, but I don't think the public knows about that. But I think just saying, you know, renewable energy, I think a lot of people just go into a coma.
Well, he did. I asked him about that because a lot of folks who have opposition to
Yeah.
wind and say, "Oh, it's expensive," he came
Yeah,
back with the
no.
same thing. The price is
The
dropping.
price is dropping dramatically. The turbines are better, and you know, getting back to solar, which bears at least as much promise. Even in New England, you know, I think, you know, there are parts of New England where it's cloudy a lot, sometimes here, but actually most of southern New England has quite a bit of sunlight. We've got a lot more than Germany and some northern European countries that have a lot of solar. So a lot of it just the improvements in the technology, in the cells, the solar cells, and then crucially the batteries, the ability to store this
It's the
stuff.
ability to store,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
Deepwater Wind is well on the way to doing.
Right, right. Yeah,
Others
yeah.
are as well.
Getting much, much better on that stuff. So I think I probably, if I were Matt Brown, I wouldn't use the phrase renewable energy too much because it sounds kind of technical and I don't know, you know, elitist.
Well, he's running as an independent,
Yeah, yeah.
seemingly to the left of Governor Raimondo.
Yeah, yeah.
And one of the issues he brought up is opposition to Wall Street's stranglehold on the states.
Yeah.
He proposed a state bank a la North Dakota.
North Dakota, which is a Republican state too. I don't know if you mentioned that. Very Republican
But
state.
it goes back a few years.
It goes back, I think, at least to the Depression, maybe to the 20s. It works very, very well. Actually, I sort of favor that. I wouldn't mind having a state bank. But I think we have to remember that that states don't have that much control over, you know, these national financial services operations.
Well, that was one of his.
Federal regs.
Federal,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
And let's talk a little bit about the POSOX. I said, you know, people are going to be asking you. It's the
Right.
hot button issue. He said, look, if we're going to be investing, we want to see some of the profits.
Well, I think there's a strong argument to be made if you want to invest in this, that the state should own the stadium, for one thing. Maybe they do. If I've forgotten that, who will actually own the stadium itself? I think I forgot. I think maybe
state,
they would.
yeah.
The state, yeah, the state should own the stadium. It should be multi-use.
But talk about
I don't think
profits. I mean,
that's
can you
gonna-
really
no,
get
you
your hands
can't
in their
do it.
pockets?
And the problem with the whole POSOX thing is you don't know where baseball is going to be in 10,
We've
20,
discussed
30
this
years.
multiple times.
Many times
Yes.
to the point of, again, coma-inducing. So, you know, it still looks like a dubious investment.
So let's talk about now what the gubernatorial field looks like. The GOP side's shaping
Yeah.
up with Fung and Morgan
Yeah.
and looking at Giovanni Ferrosi entering the race.
Trillo is
is
a sort of Trump nut.
But
and,
Trillo,
yeah.
as an independent, was discussed as potentially being that wedge,
yeah.
that sort of
Tea Party.
that sort of Healy-esque wedge to
Yeah.
allow, if Raimondo emerges from the primary,
Yeah,
a path
yeah.
to victory. But you know, if you got Matt Brown cobbling together some percentage votes, and you got Joe Trillo cobbling
Yeah.
together, has the race just gotten a little more interesting?
Oh, much more interesting. Matt's a good speaker. He's a very good speaker. He's engaging. He's had some interesting life experiences. You know, he's working on nuclear
Yes.
disarmament stuff, and that's, of course, all out the window now. Now that we're back in the Cold War. He was one of these people who's working to improve, I guess you could say, improve Russian-U.S. relations, and That's pretty much gone. He's a very articulate guy, quite charming. It'll be interesting to see how many people remember him, among other things. He was sort of a boy wonder. He was running city here in Providence. Then he was Secretary of State. Then he probably made the political error of running against Sheldon Whitehouse for the Senate in the primary, and that was a sort of a disaster. And then Matt sort of disappeared for a while. He went to Washington, and then quietly he moved back to Providence a few years ago. So this is, Scott Fitzgerald had a great line. We say, there are no second acts in American lives, which is not true.
There are plenty of second acts.
That's right.
Let's go from local
Yeah.
politics to
Yeah.
national politics, because
Yeah.
I know you're chomping at the bit
Yeah.
to talk about Sam Nunberg.
Yeah, I thought that was fascinating. You and I were talking about it in the green room. I was unusually watching cable television on Monday evening and Monday afternoon in a hotel room near the Queensboro Bridge in Manhattan, and I was actually had a lot of admiration for him. And he was a man who was visibly drunk and sort of proud of it. And it had to be one of the more bizarre interviews I've seen in a long time. This Erin, what's her name?
Amber Knapp.
Yeah, very smart, very
Yes.
smart. So she's sort of leaning over like that. I mean, just the body language of this stuff.
Do I smell alcohol on
Yeah,
your
do I
breath?
smell? And he wasn't slurring his words, but his face had that vaguely slippery quality that people who've had a few pops have. And then he, as you know, blurted out, maybe they have something on Trump, which I'm sure you remember. So I think he could be a fascinating loose cannon, partly because he knows Roger Stone, who's a total crook, and a slimy New York operator going way back, big supporter of Trump. Now, of course, he
And now we
denies
brought
everything.
Julian Assange into the equation.
That's right. Julian Assange, who's working for Vladimir Putin. I mean, WikiLeaks is now basically part of the Kremlin. So I think if Nunberg, maybe Mueller could just give him a few drinks, you know? You know, they could shake a martini shaker. Okay, here we'll keep filling until you tell us.
Well,
everything.
it's probably been the most interesting
Yeah.
part of the Mueller investigation
Yeah.
to date.
Yeah, fascinating.
I spoke
mean, the
with
cast of characters. is
I
just-
spoke
yeah.
with Jennifer Lawless on Tuesday, as I usually
Yeah.
do down in American.
Yeah,
She
yeah.
says Sam Nunberg is now her favorite former Trump staffer after Scaramucci.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
it's
the
just
mooch, yeah.
after the mooch.
Right.
I mean, no one had any idea. You know, we talked, and she said, you know, most DC players
Yeah.
knew who this person was, but
Yeah.
seemingly out of left field.
I knew nothing about
Yes.
it. Like, you know, what
Look,
do I
who
know?
was Sam Nunberg?
Yeah. I mean, I'm back in the Truman administration and that stuff. But I knew all about Roger Stone, though, in which he is I think maybe was, since he's announced he's going to cooperate.
Well, one of the things that Jennifer
Yeah.
brought up was the fact that Mueller, having tied in Roger Stone, tying in Manafort.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't know if Mueller's working in a true linear fashion, but she said it's giving people pause as to how far along maybe he really is, if he's still sort of combing through those sort of
I think
early days, or is he?
I think he's probably a little further along than we might have thought. He's so, you know, he's just his face. You know, it's the great Stone face. You know, Marine, Vietnam Marine, FBI guy, straight back rectitude. I think they're pretty close to stuff, and I think the president is in peril.
We'll see what happens down
Yeah,
in D.C.,
yeah,
but
yeah.
let's talk, you know, D.C., Rhode Island. Let's talk
Yeah,
about something that
yeah,
took place
yeah.
yesterday up at the Rhode Island State House. There
Yeah,
was
the gun stuff. Yeah,
gun stuff.
Yeah.
I was up there, and it was for legislation both on the House
Yeah,
and Senate
yeah.
side, guns in schools, automatic rifles, red flag legislation, bump stocks.
Yeah, yeah.
The Second Amendment Coalition flooded the building.
Right.
So, you know, you saw our coverage about this yesterday.
The
What do you-
NRA crowd is one of the most organized, rigorously run lobbies in American history. They're relentless. And of course, there's a wide area in Rhode Island, interior Rhode Island, with a lot of NRA people. It's basically the map of the 2016 presidential election in Rhode Island. The inland towns, West Greenwich, Exeter, Coventry, and there are a lot of gun people out there. It's like rural Maine or something, you know.
So everyone showed up at the
yeah.
State House. There was legislation.
yeah.
I mean, do you expect anything to happen? You see polls, you see numbers.
Yeah.
Certain polls say majority of Rhode Islanders are, you know, putting restrictions on automatic rifles.
Right.
Do you foresee the state
Majority
taking?
of the United States, the majority of Americans.
Do you think Rhode Island's going to take any action?
I think marginal. Mattiello kind of likes these people, and some of them support him. I think marginal. I think the Democrats are whistling in the dark until the main thing, they've got to change the Congress. The French have an expression, what do you need? A changement de regime. And so all this rhetoric is going nowhere until they take Congress, and then something will happen. Rhode Island is, it's got this bifurcated quality with sort of the richer coastal places are liberal, and these little towns in the interior of the hills are conservative. I think the Democrats would have to take a even bigger majority, which would be about 100% majority of the General Assembly to do anything major. The other thing I think we've got to keep remembering, it's like financial services, regulation stuff, like a lot of this stuff has to be done nationally. I can go buy a gun someplace and cross into another state. There's a real limit to how much you
can do at the state level.
I know in Connecticut they passed a tough law, which seems to have had some overall effect on gun deaths, even though the horror in the school in Newtown happened, but the overall rate of gun deaths fell after they tightened up gun regs. And I think some similar stuff has happened in Massachusetts, but still, it's all, what do they say, fungible, move stuff around.
We'll see what happens here in Rhode Island. So I put you through your paces with localness, but you've got your cheat sheet for the weekend.
I wanted to talk about the cameras briefly.
How can we not talk about the cameras?
They're all up in arms about it, even though there are signs, and people are speeding. I'm kind of with Judge Caprio on that. I think these things are great, and if it brings in more revenue to the city, which then fends off the next property tax increase I'll have to pay, maybe, they're good,
you're fine with $95.
Yeah, $95. Save lives and bring in more money, and maybe reduce the chance of another property tax increase.
So the speed camera candidate.
I think it's great. I think in certain poor neighborhoods, they should have probably done more outreach. There are a lot of, the neighborhoods that are complaining about this, a lot of people don't speak English very well. They aren't as kind of clued into what was going on, even though the judge did note the city did make an effort to get the word out. These laws, by the way, have been in effect forever. Everyone ignores them, And with texting and with other forms of driver distraction, this is a more and more serious problem. Traffic deaths are going up, by the way.
Yes, they are.
Pedestrians hit, and for crashes between cars and people driving into telephone poles and so on. A lot of this just distracted driving.
Distracted driving, impaired driving, one of the things GoLocal has is the ripple effect.
That's
we have the DOT and about impaired driving.
Yeah, you guys have done good stuff.
It hasn't gone away. It continues to persist. So you're going to talk about the cameras. You've also got some other items
here. The tariff thing, I think it's crazy. Why would we penalize our allies? Europe, Japan, Canada, Mexico. Well, these tariffs would not hurt China hardly at all. If you actually break down the world market for steel and aluminum, it's not going to.
Well, do you think
it would hit our allies?
Do you think that there's any potential for it to move through Congress?
I think limited.
Yes.
Wait a minute, limited for a law. But you see, the trouble is that previous Congresses have given the president a lot of regulatory authority. So some of this stuff he can do on his own by executive action. So that's he's speaking to his base. He loves to get in front of a rally with people he knows support him. Just sort of like a dictator, and he gets tremendous emotional sustenance out of pleasing his base.
Does it take a little eye off the storm, if you will?
Yeah.
Off the stormy?
Off the storm. Yeah, the stormy. Good old stormy. Yeah, right. That's going to be quite a show too.
It continues to be
quite a show. This is all almost beyond belief. It's like Marvel comic books or something like that.
So what else are we reading about?
Yeah, there's a lot going on. There's a neat little story about Greenfield, Massachusetts, a little town on the western part of the state. Trying to deal with Amazon coming in. This town famously, this is the national press, kept out big box stores like Walmart and Target or Target, of course. And successfully, but now it's all, now Amazon's coming in. They can't keep out Amazon. And so the stores are dying, the little locally owned stores. And civic engagement is under stress. In little towns like Greenfield.
So you're going to be running about Greenfield?
Yeah, Greenfield. Wait a minute, and yet there's more. Oh, wait, there's more. Something about plastic replacements. Plastics, plastic bags and something made from petrochemicals. They kill a lot of wildlife. They've got poisons where they're now finding a lot of good replacements for plastic, such as the old-fashioned cellulose, but also local story seaweed. Seaweed's going to be used more for packaging in the future. And this is great for New England. This is a terrific place to grow seaweed. You can eat it, you can package it, you can wear it, I mean, everything.
Well, we are flush with it. It would be a great
Yeah,
asset to
yeah.
have
So,
if we were to do something with
Very,
that.
very happy about that. One other thing, well, it's a local thing. Durfee, which is the main high school in Fall River, they're going to do a replacement of the big high school there for $280 million, something like that. And I thought, well, that's a lot of money. But then I read about a $500 million private house in Bel Air in West LA. And this says something about the the way American society works. You know,
Where we
for
put
one
our-
person, one rich person, $500 million for this job, monstrosity. And then
I have
this-
seen it. It's
yeah,
not. It's not.
Yeah.
I would not want to live there.
No, it's not great. It's very nice.
Well, as always, the Sunday read
Okay,
from Bob
yeah.
Wickham is a must-read, so we look
Yeah.
forward to reading it this weekend.
Okay.
Look forward to having you in next week.
Ciao,
Bob
everybody.
Wickham, okay?
Happy
Be careful
weekend.
out there.
I will.
It is a little wet and wild out here in Providence outside of the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center here. We did Skype in with the Weather Channel's Alex Wallace during the 3 o'clock hour. Again, he's keeping an eye on that line, expecting some snowfall even in Providence and parts over here because of the temperature drop. Keep an eye on weather on GoLocal moving forward. But as he said, the potential for the most precipitation is a little after the commute time, so be careful if you're out there. Take care on the roads. We appreciate your watching. We appreciate your tuning in. 3 o'clock again was The Taste with Rick Simone, talking about St. Patty's Day fun. He had Murphy's in, he had McBride's, and we talked about the St. Patrick's Day parade in Newport, of course. 4 o'clock was full with Matt Brown, former Secretary of State, here eyeing a run for governor as an independent. Coach Nate Lehman with the Providence College men's ice hockey team, number 3 seed in Hockey East's quarterfinals. Series starts on Friday on campus at PC. Kids are on spring break, so he's encouraging hockey fans across the state to tune in for some great hockey. It'll be on NBC Sports, but also he wants folks to turn out for that game. And of course, Bob Wickham, as he does now, coming in every Wednesday. We appreciate his time. Tomorrow on Thursday, we'll be on our new GoLocal schedule up at the State House at 3 p.m. Molly O'Brien here at 4. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow here in the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center and up at the State House. I'm GoLocal News Editor Kate Nagel.